In the dim light of a rainy evening on a busy city street, chaos erupted in a way that no one could have anticipated. The steady sound of raindrops mingled with the distant wail of sirens as a police cruiser pulled up beside a narrow alley. Out of the cruiser stepped Officer Kevin Brooks, his face contorted in panic and pain. Within moments, a commotion unfolded so suddenly that every bystander froze in disbelief. Officer Brooks, usually the picture of calm authority, was now engaged in a desperate struggle. His hands clawed at his throat as he gasped for breath, the force of his own shock almost as palpable as the rain pelting the pavement. In his weakened state, he staggered toward the edge of the curb, eyes bulging as he fought against an invisible force choking him. Just then, amid the swirling rain and mounting panic, an unlikely savior emerged. Handcuffed and escorted beside him was Marcus Reed, a man who, moments earlier, had been led away in connection with a minor charge. With chains clinking at his wrists, Marcus had maintained a quiet, dignified composure despite his predicament. But now, as he saw Officer Brooks convulse and struggle for air, something in him snapped into action. Without hesitation, Marcus lunged forward. In one swift, almost surreal motion, he unlatched one of the handcuffs using a hidden tool he had kept secret for emergencies. The clatter of metal echoed in the rain as he freed one hand, and then, with an urgency born of desperation and an inner resolve he had long kept buried, he reached out and grasped Officer Brooks's arm. "Hold on," Marcus shouted, his voice cutting through the din. With careful precision, he applied pressure to the right spot on Brooks's neck, a maneuver that immediately eased the constriction. In that breathtaking moment, the world around them seemed to hold its breath as the choking officer's struggle subsided. Bystanders, initially paralyzed by shock, began to murmur in astonishment. What they witnessed was not something one expected to see. A man in handcuffs, clearly a suspect, performing an act of heroic rescue. The unexpected reversal of roles was so jarring that a ripple of awe spread across the gathered crowd. For one heartbeat, Marcus's calm determination contrasted sharply with Officer Brooks's fading panic, setting the stage for a transformation that would redefine the night. In that charged moment, as rain washed away the remnants of chaos, every eye in the street was fixed on Marcus Reed. The question that hung in the air was as palpable as the drizzle. What had compelled this handcuffed man to risk everything for a cop in distress? And what would be the fallout from an act that defied every expectation of loyalty, duty, and honor? The seeds of an extraordinary turnaround had been sown, promising that the rest of the night would bring revelations that no one, neither the authorities nor the onlookers, could have foreseen. Before we go any further, subscribe to the channel and comment below where you are watching from. For our returning subscribers, thank you so much for your unwavering support. It truly means a lot to our community. Central City was known for its relentless energy, a sprawling urban landscape where towering skyscrapers met bustling streets and neon lights danced on rain-soaked pavement. On a particularly stormy night, the sidewalks of downtown were filled with hurried pedestrians, umbrellas bobbing in the wind, and the constant hum of city life. At the center of this vibrant metropolis stood a modest police precinct, its facade both reassuring and somber, a symbol of law, order, and sometimes human frailty. Officer Kevin Brooks had served in the Central City Police Department for over a decade. A dedicated and respected member of the force, Brooks was known for his steady hands, clear judgment, and a deep commitment to protecting the community. Yet that night, beneath the cool exterior of a seasoned officer, lay hidden a vulnerability that few had ever witnessed. His face, typically composed and resolute, now bore the marks of shock and struggle as he fought against an invisible enemy that was choking him. Contrasting sharply with Brooks was Marcus Reed, the man in handcuffs whose very presence seemed to defy expectations. Marcus, in his early 30s, had a lean, muscular build and a quiet intensity in his eyes. Though currently restrained by handcuffs, remnants of a minor infraction from earlier in the day, He carried himself with a dignity and calm that suggested an inner strength far beyond his current circumstances. Marcus's past was shrouded in mystery to most, but those who knew him whispered that he was a man of principle, with a heart that would not allow injustice to go unchallenged. The setting for this unfolding drama was a busy urban street that wound its way through downtown Central City. Rain slicked the pavement, reflecting the dazzling lights of neon signs and the occasional flicker of police car sirens. The atmosphere was tense yet alive, a microcosm of a city that never truly slept. Every corner held stories of struggle and redemption, and tonight, a new chapter was being written in the annals of Central City's unpredictable narrative. At the edge of this urban tableau was the police cruiser, a beacon of authority amidst the chaos. Its flashing lights cast eerie reflections on the wet asphalt as Officer Brooks, emerging from the cruiser, found himself on the precipice of a life-altering encounter. The precinct's influence, which usually provided a sense of order and safety, was now juxtaposed against the raw, unfiltered reality of human emotion and unexpected heroism. Onlookers in the vicinity, a mix of commuters, late-night workers, and curious passers-by, added to the scene's dynamic energy. Some had gathered in small clusters, their faces lit by the glow of smartphones capturing every moment, while others simply stopped in their tracks, transfixed by the unfolding drama. The rain, relentless and cool, seemed to wash over the scene, mingling with the emotions of shock, awe, and anticipation that permeated the air. In this cityscape of concrete and light, the collision between duty and humanity was inevitable. Officer Brooks's struggle, juxtaposed with Marcus Reed's unexpected act of heroism, set the stage for a narrative that would challenge preconceived notions of loyalty, duty, and redemption. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and, as the night wore on, every heart in Central City would come to witness a transformation that was as unpredictable as the city's own restless spirit. In the moments following Marcus's heroic intervention, the immediate atmosphere on the rain-soaked street shifted dramatically. Officer Brooks, his breathing gradually returning to normal, looked down at Marcus with a mixture of shock and gratitude. The handcuffed man's timely action had not only saved him from choking, but had also stirred emotions that neither of them had expected to surface on that stormy night. As onlookers began to murmur and record the scene, whispers of disbelief spread quickly through the crowd. "A suspect saving a cop," one voice asked incredulously. The image of Marcus Reed, still restrained by handcuffs, yet displaying an unyielding determination, contrasted starkly with the typical narrative. Here was a man who had been viewed as a minor troublemaker, now emerging as an unlikely hero. The incident sparked heated debates among bystanders. Some expressed admiration for Marcus's courage, while others questioned what could have driven him to act so selflessly despite his own legal predicament. Officer Brooks, now leaning against the hood of his cruiser, struggled to collect his thoughts. His uniform, soaked from the rain, clung to him as he attempted to regain his composure. "Thank you," he managed to say, his voice weak yet sincere, as he looked at Marcus. But before any further exchange could occur, the atmosphere grew even more charged when a bystander shouted, "Who is this guy?" A question that rippled through the crowd. Within moments, rumors began to circulate that Marcus Reed was not just any detainee. Some speculated that he might have a connection to influential figures in the community, while others whispered about a mysterious past that had prepared him for moments like this. Every retelling of the incident added layers to Marcus's character, transforming him in the eyes of the public from a simple handcuffed man to a figure of unexpected valor. Meanwhile, the situation did not remain confined to the street. News of the dramatic rescue spread rapidly through social media, with videos and images of the moment quickly going viral. Hashtags like #HeroReed and #UnexpectedSavior began trending, drawing attention from local news outlets and community leaders alike. The widespread public interest put immense pressure on the police department to explain the incident and address the broader implications of such a reversal of roles. Inside the department, Murmurs of concern quickly turned into formal discussions. Lieutenant Marcus Daniels, a respected figure known for his balanced judgment, initiated an internal review of the incident. "We must understand every detail," he stated during a closed meeting with his team. His words were measured but urgent, as he emphasized that this was not just about one officer's near-death experience. It was about uncovering the truth behind an event that had challenged conventional roles in law enforcement. At the same time, community leaders and local activists began organizing impromptu gatherings near the scene. They spoke passionately about the need for accountability and the potential for redemption even in the most unexpected places. "This is a wake-up call," one activist proclaimed, "that heroism can come from the most unlikely sources. We must look beyond labels and recognize the humanity in every individual." Such messages resonated with many who had long been disillusioned by the rigid stereotypes that defined interactions with law enforcement. As the investigation unfolded, additional evidence began to emerge. Digital logs from the cruiser's dashboard and security camera footage from nearby street corners corroborated the accounts of onlookers. Interviews with several witnesses painted a consistent picture. Marcus Reed had acted decisively and with no hesitation when he saw Officer Brooks in distress. His quick thinking had saved a life, and the record showed that his actions were entirely spontaneous, a moment of human decency in an environment often marred by rigidity. Yet, amid the growing praise for Marcus, questions remained. What was his background? What had led him to the point where he could risk his own freedom for the sake of another? The internal investigation, now a full-blown inquiry, began to reveal snippets of his past, hints of personal struggles, moments of resilience, and a mysterious aura that suggested he had overcome challenges that few could imagine. Every new detail added to the intrigue surrounding Marcus, and the public's curiosity evolved into a demand for more answers. By the close of the day, the initial act of aggression had transformed into a catalyst for a broader conversation about identity, redemption, and the unpredictable nature of heroism. The incident had not only saved a life, but had also ignited a spark that threatened to upend long-held perceptions about authority and the potential for change. The stage was now set for a dramatic escalation, a moment when every secret and every hidden truth would eventually come to light, and the true impact of Marcus's actions would be felt by all. In the days that followed the dramatic rescue, the narrative of the night's events took on a life of its own. Social media exploded with posts, tweets, and video clips that captured the heroic moment, and public opinion quickly shifted from shock to admiration. The hashtag #HeroReed began trending, and news outlets seized the story as a symbol of unexpected valor. Across Central City, people debated and discussed the incident, and it soon became a rallying cry for a re-examination of preconceived notions about duty and redemption. Within the police department, the internal review of the incident took on unprecedented urgency. Lieutenant Marcus Daniels, overseeing the investigation, convened meetings with senior officers to scrutinize every digital record and testimonial related to that fateful night. "We must learn from this incident," Daniels declared during one such meeting, "not only to understand the heroic actions of one man, but also to address the vulnerabilities in our system that allowed such a dramatic reversal of roles." His determination resonated with colleagues, many of whom had long believed that the department needed a more compassionate approach to internal crises. At the same time, community leaders and activists organized public forums to discuss the broader implications of the event. Panels were formed, and town hall meetings were scheduled, where citizens, law enforcement officials, and scholars debated the nature of heroism and the power of redemption. One influential community leader remarked on national television, "This is a moment that challenges everything we thought we knew about our protectors." A handcuffed man, once deemed a minor offender, saved a life, and in doing so, he reminded us that true courage knows no bounds. His words captured the public imagination and fueled the movement for reform. As the investigation deepened, more personal details about Marcus Reed began to surface. Interviews with family members and friends revealed that Marcus had endured significant hardships before his arrest. a past marked by struggles with poverty, a fierce determination to survive, and a quiet passion for art and community. These revelations added layers to his character and transformed him in the eyes of the public from a mere detainee to a symbol of resilience. His story became a testament to the idea that every individual, no matter their past, could choose a path of honor and redemption. Meanwhile, the Internal Affairs team uncovered disturbing records about Officer Carter's earlier encounters, a series of events in which personal biases had influenced his judgment. The digital logs from the cruiser's dashboard, coupled with eyewitness testimonials, painted a picture of an officer who, despite his years of service, had allowed his personal history to interfere with his duty. The emerging evidence suggested that his near-choking moment was not entirely accidental, but rather the culmination of unresolved issues that had long festered beneath the surface. Public pressure mounted as news of the investigation reached local newspapers and television stations. Interviews with affected citizens, heartbroken family members, and even former colleagues of Officer Carter fueled a growing chorus demanding that the department be held accountable for its failures. "We have seen too many incidents like this go unnoticed," one community activist stated passionately during a live broadcast. "It is time to hold every officer to a higher standard and ensure that no one's life is endangered by unchecked bias." The tension was palpable, both within the department and in the wider community. Protests outside the police headquarters grew in size, with demonstrators chanting slogans for justice and reform. Every shared video clip, every leaked internal email, and every public testimonial added to the rising storm of demands for accountability. The once quiet hum of the city was now punctuated by the collective call for change, a call that promised to upend old power structures and bring about a new era of transparency and compassion. By the end of this period of escalation, Central City was at a crossroads. The incident had evolved from a singular act of unexpected heroism into a catalyst for systemic review, a moment that would force the entire community to confront its long-held beliefs about authority, redemption, and the nature of true courage. The rising tension, fueled by both internal investigations and public outcry, set the stage for a dramatic turning point. Everyone involved knew that the time for decisive action was near, and that soon, the full impact of that life-changing night would be revealed. The pivotal moment arrived on a crisp afternoon in a packed briefing room at Central City Police Headquarters. Senior executives, legal advisors, community leaders, and members of the media gathered in solemn anticipation as Lieutenant Marcus Daniels prepared to deliver the final resolution of the investigation. With a measured yet resolute tone, Daniels stepped to the podium and began. After an exhaustive review of digital logs, eyewitness accounts, and internal reports, it is clear that Officer Kevin Carter's actions that night were compromised by unresolved personal trauma, a trauma triggered by connection to a past he had long tried to bury. A murmur spread through the room as Daniels continued. The tattoo on the woman's arm, the one that set off this chain of events, matches an image in our historical records. It is a symbol of a loss, a deep wound from Officer Carter's past, and it appears that this revelation has overwhelmed him in a critical moment. His words hung heavily in the air, and every eye in the room shifted to the officer, whose face was etched with shock and regret. Effective immediately, Daniels announced, Officer Carter will be placed on administrative leave pending a full disciplinary review and the provision of professional support to help him address these personal issues. The announcement was delivered with the conviction of someone who believed that accountability must extend to all, regardless of rank or past service. The room erupted in a mix of applause and solemn nods. The decision was not merely punitive. It was a clear message that the system must confront and heal its own internal fractures. At that moment, a calm and powerful voice rose from the back of the room. It belonged to Simone Washington, the woman whose tattoo had inadvertently triggered this cascade of revelations. Standing with quiet dignity, Simone spoke, "I never intended for my art to cause harm. I only wish to share my story. And if my past can help heal someone's wounds, then let it be a bridge to a better future." Her words resonated with everyone, transforming the narrative from one of retribution to one of healing and understanding. Inspector David Ramirez then presented the final dossier, a comprehensive compilation of evidence that included internal memos, security footage, and a series of testimonies detailing Officer Carter's previous incidents of biased behavior. The dossier left no room for doubt. Carter's actions were not isolated, and his unresolved past had directly contributed to his inability to perform his duties that night. The Internal Affairs Panel, now unanimous in its decision, confirmed that a new era of accountability was essential. In that charged moment, the balance of power shifted irreversibly. The once unassailable authority of Officer Carter was now undermined by the truth of his personal struggles, and the decision to suspend him sent a resounding message throughout the department and the community. The shock on Carter's face, captured by every camera, became a stark symbol of the day when the weight of the past was finally confronted and held accountable. It was a moment of reckoning, a moment that promised to redefine the standards of integrity and compassion within the force. For Simone Washington, for Marcus Reed, and for every member of the community who had long suffered under the strain of unresolved prejudice, this turning point was a beacon of hope. It signified not only the fall of one officer, but the beginning of a movement towards healing and systemic reform. The era of unchecked bias was drawing to a close, and the promise of a more empathetic future shone through the collective determination in the room. In the weeks following the decisive press conference, Central City Police Headquarters began the slow work of healing and reform. News of Officer Kevin Carter's suspension and the comprehensive internal review spread rapidly, igniting a wave of public discourse about the importance of accountability and the need to address personal traumas within the force. Local media hailed the incident as a turning point, a moment when the system took a hard look at itself and resolved to change for the better. Simone Washington, whose tattoo had inadvertently triggered the revelations, emerged as an unexpected catalyst for unity. She participated in community outreach programs and spoke at local events about the power of personal expression and the importance of confronting one's past. Her willingness to share her own story of struggle and triumph inspired many, turning her into a symbol of resilience and hope for a better, more inclusive future. Within the police department, Senior Manager Carlo Ortiz and Lieutenant Marcus Daniels led sweeping reforms. New training programs focused on cultural sensitivity, ethical conduct, and mental health support were implemented for all officers. Oversight mechanisms were strengthened, and regular evaluations were introduced to ensure that every officer was held accountable for their actions. We are committed to not only enforcing the law, but also caring for the human beings behind the badge, Daniels stated during a department-wide meeting, a declaration that resonated with both veterans and new recruits alike. Officer Carter's case became a landmark example of how the department would handle instances of personal bias going forward. His suspension, coupled with the evidence that had been laid bare, sent a clear message. No one, regardless of their rank or years of service, will be allowed to hide behind unresolved personal issues. The incident sparked internal conversations that led to a broader review of departmental practices, a review that promised to usher in a new era of transparency and support. Public sentiment mirrored the internal changes. Community leaders, civil rights activists, and everyday citizens gathered in public forums to discuss how law enforcement agencies could better address both the psychological burdens and the cultural biases that had long plagued their ranks. Town hall meetings and panel discussions were organized, where citizens demanded that every officer receive the support needed to prevent personal pain from turning into public harm. Banners reading "Heal, Don't Hurt," and "Accountability Now" adorned the streets, and local politicians pledged to champion policies that would ensure a more compassionate approach to law enforcement. One final community rally was held in the plaza outside City Hall. As the sun set and cast a warm glow over the gathering, Lieutenant Daniels addressed the crowd. "Today marks a new beginning," he declared, his voice filled with hope and resolve. "We have taken a hard look at our past, and we are committed to a future where every individual is treated with the dignity they deserve." Let this moment remind us that true strength lies not in unyielding power, but in the courage to change and to care for one another. His words were met with resounding applause and a renewed sense of community spirit. As Central City slowly returned to normal, the legacy of that fateful night endured as a reminder that justice and accountability can triumph even in the darkest moments. The transformative events had reshaped not only a police department, but also the hearts and minds of a community determined to stand together against prejudice. Officer Carter's suspension, the revelations of his hidden past, and the unexpected heroism of those who stepped forward to confront injustice became a beacon of hope, a promise that no matter how deeply ingrained the pain, change is always possible when truth is allowed to shine. In the end, the story of that night became more than just a tale of conflict. It became a catalyst for healing, reform, and a renewed commitment to the principles of fairness, empathy, and respect. Central City emerged stronger, united by a shared belief that every person, regardless of their past, is worthy of dignity. The promise of transformation, set in motion by one fateful phone call and the courageous act of an unlikely hero, would serve as an enduring legacy for generations to come.